Hello and welcome to today's webinar, Native Connections, Best Practices and Tools. Today we'll be covering Part 3, Roadmap for Success. My name is BC Echohawk. On behalf of the Native Connections team and contracting officer representatives Maureen Madison and Jan Dunbar Cooper, I'd like to thank you all for joining us today. We want to hear from you today, so please don't hesitate to use the chat box for questions or comments throughout the session. Right now, I'm going to hand it over to our grantee technical assistant, Idella King, to open us up in a good way. Idella?
Thank you, BC. Good morning, good day, wherever you may be. Today, with what we're going to be talking about, we're really going to have to put our minds together and come up with some really great ideas. And I think about our ancestors, our elders, who were able to sit together and think about plans for our futures, and plan and pray for us in a good way, so we're able to be here today. And thinking about how much we're going to be learning in this webinar today, I thought about a song that my grandpa taught me how to sing when I was a really little girl. And so I always think of this as an elder song because my grandpa helped me to learn this song when I was really young. So I'm going to share this with you today.
Can't hear you.
That's just a little tiny part of that big long song, but I wanted to share at least that much with us today before we get started. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Idella. Next slide, please. Yes, thank you for that beautiful song. I'd like to introduce our speakers today. My name is Deborah Radler. I'm one of the lead grantee technical assistants here for 3 Stars Government Corporation and Native Connections. My co-presenters are Sarah Pearson. Sarah, could you introduce yourself, please?
Thank you, Deborah. Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah Pearson. I'm a Native Connections subject matter expert. I work with Deborah and Sharon. I'll turn it over to Sharon.
Hi, thank you for being with us. My name is Sharon Eagleman, and I'm a Native Connections grantee technical assistant. And I'll turn it back over to Deborah.
Thank you. Next slide, please. Okay, and here we are. We're finally to part 3 of Roadmap for Success. Next slide. I wanted to go over the learning objectives for this 4-part series just really quickly. We've already went through, part 1 and part 2, to where we really looked at community partnerships and collaborative events using the community systems analysis template. We talked a little bit about the community's readiness for change and how the community readiness model really helps us to do that. And now we're to the roadmap for success. And this here is where we're going to continue our Native Connections journey. And this is where we're really going to start getting into the strategic action plan. Why is it strategic? How do you use the SMART goals, people, timelines, and outcomes? How do you put all that into a plan that you're going to follow for the remainder of the years that you're on this grant? So I think we're all ready to get started. Part 4 is going to be at the end of January, and we're going to continue our journey and finally come to the end of that path. So let's get on our plan for today, and I'll turn this back over to Sharon.
Thank you, Deborah. Oops. So when we look at this Native Connections, this graphic slide, before planning where to go, it's always important to know where to start. So in our cultural wisdom regarding healing and wellness, we focus on our strengths. So at the center, you'll notice you have youth, family, and community, because that's our strength. The road to developing your strengths-based SAP is going to be built on protective factors and community collaborations. And this is going to start with identifying strengths and gaps. So in the gold box on the lower right side of the model, the Native Connections approach starts with assessment and analysis, which identifies existing resources to aid collaboration, maps community programs and services, helps plan, coordinate, and prioritize grant efforts. It provides baseline data on activities and gaps in services. It also helps increase coordination and information sharing among partners. The community readiness model defines the problem the community hopes to change and the community's readiness for change. It lays the foundation for developing the SAP. Both the CSA and the CRM are tools that can be used in data collection. Next, we move to the red section on the lower left side of the graphic. The second phase of the Native Connections approach looks at the effect of historical trauma on the community. It also highlights community and cultural strengths and resources. This is where you will start working through the CRM. In order to increase capacity, you have to identify and close gaps in services. In order to address the effects of historical trauma and begin building resilience, you allow your community to define issues and strategies in their own context. The Native Connections Community Readiness Assessment has been specifically developed for suicide prevention in Indian country. It's a guide to the complex process of community change. Then we move to the upper left side of the graphic in the black section, and this is where you start working on your strategic action plan using the data collected in the CSA and the CRM. You'll be promoting mental health as seen through the development of your SAP. When you start this part, you will have completed the first 4 tabs of the community system assessment and your 6 dimensions of readiness scores, and you'll be ready to develop the SAP with the help of your GTA. So we continue on to the blue section, and this is where you begin implementing your SAP and where you move from paper to action. You'll begin to focus on the future as you start to implement your plan. Indigenous evaluation, telling your story, is also a part of this section. Next slide, please. So can you please answer in the chat box? Let us know if you are a new or returning grantee and what cohort are you a part of? And the name of your program, you'd like.
I think we've got Chinook Ortiz. I think she's a new cohort 8 grantee. In fact, she's one of my grantees. Hey, it's good to see you today, Chinook. I hope we'll have to talk about this later. And Jessica, she's also new. That's my other cohort 8 grantee. Good morning. It's good to see you on this webinar. We've got Callie Walks Over Ice. She's a returning cohort 6 at the Rocky Mountain Billings Native Connections. We've got Melissa Huntington from Fairbanks, cohort 7. Wow, there's a lot of different cohorts on here today. Steve Hendricks, cohort 8. Let me see. Aaron Kashim, Seminole Tribe of Florida, cohort 5. Welcome. Mary Lisa Huntington, she said she's semi-new. So thank you for that. Aaron Martinez, he's a new. Positive Directions for Native Health. Jewel Cunningham, cohort 6 from the American Indian Center of Arkansas. Welcome today. Kimberly Ferris, cohort 8, Oklahoma City Indian Clinic. Gail Romero, she's new. She's with the 5 Sandoval Indian Pueblos as a preventionist. Let's see here. Well, hello, everybody. I'm so glad that you're all here today. And thank you for answering this in our chat box.
What a great group.
Yes.
Yes. Next slide, please. So can you please answer in the chat box what the word resilience means to you? For those of you who can you please translate the word resilience in your tribe into your tribal language and put your answer in the chat box?
Okay. Cook Inlet. Let's see, Kimberly, she said strong. That's such a good word for resilience.
I love that word, strong.
Let's see, Crystalline. I don't think I'm going to pronounce your last name. You said you're from Cook Inlet. You're not sure which cohort you are. I think you might be cohort 7. I think.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's see.
Preserving, tough, powerful.
Oh,
Wow.
let's see. Callie walks over ice. Resilience to me is being able to overcome the greatest of struggles and still being able to take care of yourself and others. Excellent. Julie, closest I can think of is strength. I am not even going to pronounce that. Maybe you can unmute and pronounce that for us.
I like
Thank you,
Mary.
Deborah. Yes, that's Mishkozi Win
Miss Cozy
for
Win.
strength. Mishkozi Win.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Julie.
Let's see.
Snap back. Somebody said snapping back.
Let's see. Gail said withstand. Sharon, do you want to unmute and pronounce that for us?
Well,
Tell us-
washke,
Oh, wash, okay.
it means strength.
All right. Let's see, Steve said resilience means persevering through challenges and not giving up. Exactly. Culture, great answer. Mhm. Okay. Well, thank you everybody for answering that. You know, or that Tina, Buffalo Strong. Yes.
So now I'll turn it over to Deborah for our next question.
Okay. Crystalline, could you unmute yourself and read what you wrote in the chat box?
Yeah, Lutzatine. So it means he, she, it is strong or get strong.
Uh-huh.
And I just looked it up in the Plinkett dictionary.
Yeah, if you have it.
And so I think, well, just from what I know culturally, when they mean strong, they don't just mean physically strong, they mean mentally
Yeah,
strong.
send it
too.
over.
Okay,
You have it done,
Thank
send it
you.
over.
thank you so much. Great, okay. Yes, next slide, please. Okay, you know, one of the things that this webinar, we're talking about planning, you know, and what is planning to you and why is planning important? You know, when when we were developing this webinar, one of the things I had to really think about is planning. I looked it up on Google, looked up in some dictionaries about what it is. And I think I came up with a really good quote on what planning is. But I'd like to hear from you in the chat box of what do you think, you know, why is that important to you? You know, why plan? But my quote that I found is that planning is bringing the future into the present so that you can do something now. That kind of sounds kind of abstract, but when you really kind of reflect on that, that is what you're doing. You're trying to, and that's what the GTAs try to help you do, is to really consider what do you want to do positively here in the future for our youth. And you're going to pull it back to something that you can do now in the next month, the next 3 months, next 6 months, you know, and that's all part of your planning. So if you have any comments or you want to tell us a little bit about what planning is for you, you know, please, you know, use the chat box.
Well, Deborah, this is Sarah, and it makes me think at the top of the year, I usually have a wish. That is, I'd like to lose some weight, but if I don't have a plan, then it's just a wish, right?
Oh, yes. That takes a lot of planning.
Julie's laughing at me. Really, if I really want it to happen and move from a wish to an actual outcome, I've got to really plan what I want to do about losing weight.
Mm-hmm. You know, I think Crystalline has a good comment in the chat box. It's important so people can mark their calendars. My team knows when our events are, so they will mentally and prepare the supplies. I also have to plan around the school calendar and holidays. I have to plan around other events. We do 40 events a year, so I need to plot them out in November and have it ready to be sent out by December. Wow, that's amazing, but that's what we have to do. That's all part of our planning that we're doing now so that our future events will be successful. That's a really great example, Crystal, and thank you for that.
It's good to know that when you plan, you're really working, noodling it through. It's work to develop a plan. You're not just winging it.
Mm-hmm. But it sure does pay off a lot as you're implementing your plan, because you've already thought through so many of the different ins and outs of it. It's going to be grab and go eventually when the tubs with supplies and their temperatures. Yes, I think, I think when you plan ahead of time, you're able to, really plan for roadblocks. There's always going to be some kind of a roadblock. And at that time, you can come up with plan A, plan B. That's what I'm always saying. You always got to have a plan B to fall back on. Next slide, please. Now we have a different kind of a polling question for you. We just wanted to take a minute here to go ahead and check on whichever ones of these resonate with you. Maybe they all do, but what is your, we wanted to know, what is your experience here with developing a SAP? I really like doing these kind of polls because you can kind of see them in real time on what people are saying. So come on, people. I know there's more than 3 people on here. Get your mouse out there and click on one of these boxes, or maybe all of them.
Sorry, I'm having a hard time finding the poll.
Oh, okay.
I
Did it
think we
pop
need
up on your screen?
the poll popped up, but then it disappeared
It's-
pretty quick.
It looks
It's now a
like,
black box.
Yeah.
It's a black box, Deb.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, we have another poll. We'll try it again here in a minute. But anyway, I've been part of a team that created a SAP or something like that, and I know how to develop goals, but not a full SAP. Those are excellent starting places that you're at least familiar with, creating a plan. Okay. Let's see. Let's go on to our next poll. Wait, no, this one out. Okay.
thank you, Steve. He stated that he's done goals, but not a full SAP.
Okay. What elements of a SAP are your greatest interest? Click as many as you wish. Wow. Objectives. Wow, objectives and outcomes. Activities. Let's see. Okay. I think it'll kind of stop. Let me see here. Can you guys see this on your screens?
No,
No.
Just
Okay.
like the first one, it only gave us like 10 seconds to input
Okay.
and it went black.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. Gee. Okay, let me see. Okay, I tried to share the results.
Okay, we can see it now.
Okay, thank
The
you.
results, Deborah.
Okay. This is really interesting. Objectives are your greatest interests. Activities and outcomes, each with 10. Vision statements and goals. And I think at the bottom down there, we've got evaluation. Quite a few. This is really interesting. Thank you for sharing this information. This is for GTAs. This is the kind of information that we really need to help provide, really individualized TA to everybody. So thank you for sharing these. Okay. Okay, next slide, Mark. Okay, this is where we're going to move into our strategic action plan overview. We're going to move out of the slide set and into our Prezi. So give us a moment to share another desktop. Okay, here we go. Okay.
I'm still seeing the poll. Hang on a second.
Okay. Okay,
Oh,
Sarah,
can you see the Prezi now?
yes, we can see the Prezi good.
Awesome. Wonderful. We will move on. So to everyone on the call, congratulations. I know that your community or program has won a Native Connections 5-year award to address the behavioral needs of Native youth. Outstanding. Now what do you do? Well, you have to start planning. So you have a lot of responsibility on your plate. You've got to have a plan. You've got to tell the story of where you plan to go and where do you plan to go? Well, already SAMHSA has given you some grant requirements to manage that set up a nice foundation. And I'm going to turn this over to Sharon Eagleman to give us a little insight into these 5 grant requirements that SAMHSA wants us to manage. This will be part of your plan. Sharon?
Thank you, Sarah. So there are 4 policies and procedures that are required of the grant. So an example of this could include assessing agencies in your community that work with youth. Assessments could include how they coordinate services, the effectiveness of these services, and how they work with other agencies. Next slide, please. Develop or revise protocols to ensure youth at risk for suicide receive follow-up services to ease their transition into treatment. And this could also include when they return home. So Idella may have an example she'd like to share.
One of the things I know when our community members leave the community to go to treatment programs or co-occurring facilities, when they come back, it's always important to create some type of an aftercare plan or something to kind of monitor. Some of our young people end up going into intensive outpatient after they come out of treatment programs. And so being able to kind of follow them, make sure that they have care when they go, leave the treatment, going back into their home communities.
Mhm.
Yeah, so important.
Thank you. Next slide, please. Oh, I'm sorry. Develop or revise community postvention protocols for responding to suicides, attempts, and suicide clusters to promote community healing and reduce the possibility of contagion. So an example of this could be a plan or a part of a school safety plan. Law enforcement, schools, or mental health clinics may have postvention protocols in place also. I'm not sure if anyone wanted to add an example.
I think with postvention protocols, a lot of people do these at the same time that they do their crisis response plan. They kind of do those together. And so, postvention, one of the things I like about Native Connection, the way we approach postvention, is that the culture, whatever your cultural protocols are, your cultural ways, that you can pull those into your postvention plan, to make sense of that for your community members. So I think culture is just a really important part of developing these postvention plans. And postvention is not just you see people once and then that's it. This could be a plan that you outline, that where you could be staying in contact with family members, community around that family, for 1 month to several months afterwards. And again, trying to make sure that a suicide cluster doesn't happen. That's also something that we really need to make sure that we're aware of, because unfortunately that does happen sometimes. And when you have a postvention plan in place, that's a huge way to stop those clusters from starting at all. So thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. Develop and implement mental health awareness training in communities, including activities to raise awareness on the importance of suicide prevention strategies, including screening for suicide. So for this part, what I wanted to share is that it's not necessarily asking grantees to develop their own mental health awareness training, but they could be bringing this training or different types of training into their communities and offering it to their partners, schools, the other agencies that they're working with. And they could provide mental health training such as QPR, Safe Talk, Assist, and youth mental health first aid. Next slide, please. In terms of implementing community substance misuse prevention strategies that include public messaging and training on the risk of substance use in education and school settings, one example that I thought of is one of my grantees developed these table toppers that describe and have a QR code with information on the new 988 line. And they just set up at any community events, set up a table and they just try to get the word out of what they're doing. And some even have rented billboards throughout different times of the year. Those are just a few examples. I don't know if anyone else wanted to share any.
You know, we had a Crystal in the chat box. She said that we use QPR, Safe Talk, and Assist in our community. We do Safe Talk once a month and Assist once a month, and work with our partners to train their new hires. You know, and I think again, you know, talking about these different ways to do these prevention activities. Again, these are going to be activities that you're going to be including in your strategic action plan. You're going to have this detailed out, you know, and I really like, Crystalline, how you say once a month we do, you know, Safe Talk and Assist once a month. I can just imagine that your strategic action plan in that timeline section that you have that, you know, maybe it's 12 times in there, you know, it's in, you know, we'll go through that template in a few minutes, but I can already see how you have this time, how you have this laid out in your strategic action plan. So thank you for including that. And, you know, BC put the link to our PowerPoint, including the Prezi, in the chat box. And we are going to have other downloads for you as we move through this presentation. And then Crystalline also said that she uses QPR for youth and it's based on requests. So thank you for those comments.
Thank you. And then I believe I will turn it back over to Sarah.
Sure. Thank you, Sharon. So those were, that was a good handful of strong, richly developed goals that Sharon and Deborah just described. But getting back to planning, that's just part of the plan. You got 5 years. That's a lot of time and some funding to support your work in your Native Connections program. So planning, what's in it for me? Well, step by step or goal by goal, if you follow the map that you've drawn toward your dream, your roadmap, your strategic action plan, driven by the vision for change, you'll make it if you stay on course. But your plan should be shaped or drawn by those who are willing to join the journey with you. And, you know, unfortunately, over the years, we've seen a lot of folks think that it's okay to develop that strategic action plan or that roadmap alone in enclosed quarters. But if you do that, you risk missing out on the important details and perspectives that could improve the adventure for you, make it a smoother ride, for example, or increase winning outcomes that make you look really good. For example, if you exclude youth from helping you develop your strategic action plan, you'll miss out on their insights, for example, reaching or communicating with other youth in the community. If you exclude local leaders from the strategic action plan process, you may waste valuable time, for example, on a part of your plan that might be already in the works somewhere else in the community, and someone else in the community is about to launch and you could join in that, but you didn't know about it because you didn't include that leader. So there are people, just get them on board, get them with you, and having a plan provides a clear point of reference and expectations for all stakeholders so they can jump in on the same song sheet and sing with you in harmony. Well, what makes a strategic action plan strategic? I think we started talking about that when we started to talk about prevention and resilience. So if you have a moment, please look at the chat box and type in what your ideas of a strategy are. I'll give you a couple of examples. You could have strategies or goals that are strategic in that they are show that this program can be partly youth-led. You could be using the arts and culturally driven activities. You could be raising awareness. You could be making sure that your program is strength-based. Use healthy partnerships as a strategy. Be trauma-informed. Are there any other ideas? Any GTAs willing to share what they think is a good strategy?
You know, Sarah, when I think about strategic, that one word, what that, you know, from my time as a GTA, what that means to me is the time it takes for people to think through their plan. Really spend some time to think about it and to imagine, use your imagination, you know, and really put some effort into thinking about what, you know, including community members, like you said.
Exactly. And, you know, using my analogy earlier, when I said maybe a plan to lose weight at the beginning of the year, I could be strategic about it and say, I don't like cardio. I'm going to just diet. That would be my strategy. So it really does help to have a sense of what kind of strategies do you want to focus on.
Mhm.
So first, before you get started with your strategic action plan, number one, you've got to assemble a community advisory board. You could call it a SAP team. You could call it whatever you want. You could call it Cling It Super Team. But you need to assemble those folks and make sure that you get a nice diverse crowd. Get your elders, get youth, get a nice group in there because they're going to help keep you keep it real. So they'll get them involved early and often in all grant activities, including the planning, the implementation, and also evaluation. Get them involved in your CRS, CSA, and CRM as well. Try to get youth and family members involved. Even tribal leaders, don't feel like you're bugging them. Get them involved and get some spiritual advisors in there. What you're doing is the most important strategy of all. You're making native connections. You're building a web of relationships that are going to strengthen your action plan. It's like herding sheep. That's why I've got the sheep up there. All those little goals and objectives, you got to pull them all together in one plan. For a little bit of assistance, talk to your GTA about the Native Connections Resource Center, the NCRC. If you haven't heard of it, get your GTA to get you in and take a look at all the resources there. Gather data from your community systems analysis. If you've done that work already, that's so important. That's going to support your strategic action plan development. Complete or update your community readiness assessment and get your scores, identify your 2 lowest scores and use those as a guide to help you develop and focus on the appropriate goals and objectives that are going to help you raise those scores. Also consider the capacity that you have to deal with. Do you have is it just you? Are you wearing 6 hats? Do you have a part-time assistant? Do you have a volunteer? More volunteers, the better. It might seem like a lot of work up front, but they're going to help you out in the future. Ask your GTA for a strategic action plan template if you'd like one. We have those available and they can really help keep you on track. Otherwise, you can sometimes find other templates online or create your own. And very important, before you get too far down the road, schedule dates and times for planning meetings with your community advisory board. So important, get on their schedule and make sure you do maybe a year out. So you don't have to worry about having that support that you need to get this plane off the ground. So now you're ready to gather up the team and moving forward into brainstorming and discussing important things like determining what vision will drive the program. And vision, I saw only 33% of people were interested in vision. I thought that's the most important thing of your strategic action plan because it tells us where you plan to end up. That's where you're going. That your whole strategic action plan tells a story of where you're going, and you're going is that vision statement, that dream destination that currently is beyond reach. It is the number one overarching, big, huge, enormous goal that you all aspire to achieve. And the goals that you have in your SAP and the objectives that support those goals all help you get to that vision. A vision statement describes your vision as the destination or dream to be realized. That differs from your mission statement, which describes how you plan to get to the vision. Here's some examples of some vision statements to take a look at. Now, these aren't very imaginative, but they're very, pretty generic. Youth live strong, honor our past, and strengthen our future. Silver Lake Tribe is a healthy, safe, and culturally knowledgeable community. Native youth leadership is a precious resource in our tribe. From all corners of our community, youth are empowered to acquire skills and wisdom to lead us into the future. These are they're like aspirational statements that, no one can claim to have right now. It's just out of reach, but it's something that you can reach for. And they're broad enough so that you can do many, many things with them. You don't want a vision statement that's too specific. You want a statement it's fairly broad, something you want to aspire to reach. I'm going to pause for a moment. Deborah or Sharon or Adela, Bobby, anyone have any comments or questions?
I think what you were saying before that, how important vision statements are. I think a lot of the grantees that I work with really struggle with their vision statement, but many times you have a vision statement in your grant application that you might not be aware of,
Yes.
you know, and so
Go back
reread.
to that application, take a look at it.
Mhm.
And you know, your community board, your advisory board could change that. They might say that's doesn't really cover what we need for our kids today, because that might have been written a year ago or 6 months ago or 6 weeks ago. Can we tweak it? Absolutely. You guys have the power to create an updated vision statement that works
Mhm.
now for today.
Mhm. Yes.
So if you've gotten this far, you're on the road to success. Keep going and keep engaging your advisory board. Make them work with you. So after you have your vision statement, which is so important, you need to brainstorm a few goals besides the ones that Sharon mentioned earlier. Here's a way to think about the goals. Each goal could be a facet of your vision, which is that I see as a little diamond right there. Each facet is a goal that leads to that big vision, that precious jewel where you want to end up. You want to align goals with the statement of need that may have been described in your proposal. If you have that available to you, take a look at that. Look at the statement of need and just try to align those goals. Make sure the vision, make sure it makes sense for what you propose that you would do with your Native Connections Award. Goals prominently feature a verb to signal action. So you'll have an action, meeting,
Mhm.
calling, holding a meeting, running an activity. You'll have a goal. Your goals will feature a verb at the very front of the sentence. The goals describe who will be affected by the project. Will it be youth? Will it be youth who are ages 10 to 17, age 17 to 24? Who's being affected by this? What's the action affecting? Goals are supported by measurable outcomes, and each goal should be about 1 sentence long. Just keep it
Mhm.
short.
Mhm.
So your strategic action plan should be made up of mostly activities. This is the action in your action plan. These activities would be things like youth engagement, report writing, meetings that you're holding, direct services you're providing, training that you're offering to colleagues, to partners, presenting to tribal leadership, presenting to the community, mentoring youth, mentoring other colleagues. And these activities are all supporting the objectives that you have. The objectives are small-sized, short-term, bite-sized goals that break up a larger goal, and these can be achieved through a number of activities. These should be SMART. Your goals don't have to be SMART specifically if your objectives are. Goals directly support the vision. They're long-term. They could be a year long. They could go across 2 or 3 years. You've got 5 years to think about this. So goals are long-term, usually year-long milestones towards your vision statement. They prioritize based on available resources, time, and your capacity. So don't bite off more than you can chew. If you're an office of 1.5 people, don't choose goals that really require a team of 5. So be very strategic on how you're planning your time and how far you're stretching your resources, your staff, your capacity. And of course, the strategic action plan is driven by one vision, which is your dream or destination for which you're reaching. So again, the visions, you have one vision, you might have a handful of goals for each year, and some goals could stretch across a couple of years, because let's face it, some goals are pretty big. And you'll have a number of objectives for each goal, and under each objective, you'll have a lot of activities that support all of those objectives. That's sort of a pyramid to give you a sense of what the strategic action plan starts to sort of shape up to be.
Mhm.
Do we have any questions before I move on? Doing pretty good? All right, we will proceed until apprehended. So if you've gotten this far, let's move on to SMART objectives. As long as, I don't care whether you have a SMART objective or a SMART goal, but I would lean more towards making sure your objectives are SMART. So let's turn this to Deborah Rattler to hear a little bit about SMART objectives. Deborah?
Okay, thank you, Sarah. I think in all the time that I've been doing, working as a GTA with so many grantees, I think working on SMART is where we spend a lot of our time in the first and second year. And when you first look at the SMART, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound, if you're the one that answered SAMHSA's funding and opportunity announcement, that's where your grant started. You put in, you developed your application. If you go back into your FOIA, SMART is addressed in that towards the bottom. SAMHSA tells you how they want you to write your goals and objectives. But this can seem really abstract if you're not really familiar with how to write an objective in the SMART format. Now, as Sarah said, your goals, keep your goals simple. On this one here, raise awareness of suicide prevention, support, and action within the community. So that's your goal. It's pretty straightforward. It's broad enough that it's going to encompass a lot of activities. And so how are you going to translate that into your objective? So what we did is we broke it out we color coded it. So by mid-spring, you're going to organize a 2-hour. Okay, that's a time bound. It's going to be a 2-hour walk and it's going to be in spring. So you got a specific time frame. You got a specific time that you're doing this walk. It's a suicide prevention awareness walk. Now that is really relevant to your grant overall, suicide prevention. It's an awareness walk. It matches to that goal by raising awareness. 4 participants of all ages. Now that is something you could measure. Whether you do a sign-in sheet, head count, handing out bottles of water, handing out a brochure, there's some kind of a measurable activity that you're going to do so that you know how many people took part in this. So through the center of the community, your walk has a beginning and an end, and this one's going to be through the center of the community. So you can see that that's achievable. Ending at a place where we can share a meal, gift, and stories. Now that's specific. Most of the time in these walks, like I said, you have a beginning and an end. So you have your ending is going to be a specific place where everybody's going to go. So you can see on this one here, it has its color coded. It gives you all the elements of SMART. Next slide. We have a few more of these that we want to go through. And another thing that Sarah said is your outcomes and your vision. So let's look at that a little bit more. So look at, again, your goal 1, increase partnerships to support youth development, career development, and deepen cultural knowledge. Again, one sentence, very broad. But when you go back into your first objective, now pay attention, it's objective 1.1, by mid-spring. So you know the time of the year that's going to happen. You're going to contact and schedule behavioral health department staff for guidance. That's attainable. You can do that. On running an age-appropriate fun activities. Specific. Up to 50 older youth, 17 to 24 years old. Again, your measurement. To help them build relationship and develop problem-solving skills, which is really relevant to your goal. And look at your outcome at the bottom. Your program has established an informal partnership to help youth acquire relationship and problem-solving skills. That relates right back to your objective, which relates right back to your goal. And you can see how we've developed these. They're just short sentences. You don't need to write a book when you're doing objectives. Keep it short and specific so you, your community advisory board, and your other staff, whoever's helping you, understand what you're doing. It keeps it so much simpler. Here's objective 1.2, in the winter. So in the winter, it's going to be, 3-4 months? So sometime in that winter, those few months there, you're going to really narrow it down to a specific time. You're going to sign an MOU with the school and Boys and Girls Club. That's attainable. That's something you can do. You're going to schedule a 6-week summer time. Again, time bound. So you can see that you started planning this in the winter for a summertime activity. And again, it's a class for up to 50 youth. And you're going to have some kind of measurement for that on a digital storytelling film. Very relevant to what you're doing. Production skills like shooting scenes, editing, and adding audio. Again, specific. So you can see in this color-coded objective how you can break this down if you take your time to just, again, I do this better color coding than just black and white. Take the time to use some colored pencils and figure out what you want to say in a brief sentence. And again, look at your outcome. Program has established 2 formal partnerships and at least 5 youth teams, produced a collection of digital stories to be shared with the community and featured in the Digital Storytelling Festival. This effort has garnered the attention of Tribal Council. Gosh, what a win. You've got leadership involved now. Next slide. Objective 1.3. Here we go, by mid-spring. Again, time bound. You started your planning in the winter for a summer project, so you're starting in the middle of the spring. You're getting approval from school leadership to work with teachers and reach out. Again, that's something you can do. You can attain that. Local cultural knowledge holders. Who are the people that's going to help you? Your cultural people. So this is where you're starting to detail, more specific activities. You're looking for local cultural knowledge keepers. And why? For their assistance in planning a youth class on digital storytelling for up to 20 youth. So you can see how when you first started planning on this, you actually started planning for up to 50 youth. And now you're going down and you're talking about a specific class and you're down to 20 youth. So you can see how your planning is starting to progress here. You're going to make up probably those other 30 youth, maybe in another part of this. And again, your outcome, again, keep it brief. An additional collection of culturally focused digital storytelling videos have been produced by the youth to share with the community in time for summer. Again, this is the outcome that you're expecting to happen after this happens. So your outcome is going to be fulfilled probably at the end of the summer. So partnerships are deepened with the school and community members. You've really made some good inroads with them. A good number of youth have deeper knowledge of their tribal culture. So you started with 50, maybe you ended up with 30, but you've still managed to reach your goals and objectives here. Next one, next slide. So again, let's look at this. This is a simple goal. You're going to raise awareness among leadership of existing suicide prevention efforts. Keep your goals simple. Next slide. Goal 3, increase the number of community members who know that youth suicide is a real problem that exists in the community today. Next slide. So I think at this time, we're just gonna, I think Sharon's going to take you through the outcomes, vision and outcomes a little bit more. Sharon?
Thank you, Deborah. So when we talk about more partners, there are some things that we could consider that would help us in our work. So for example, you could get to know and check with another related agency to see if you could both work on something, a project together that would help both of you reach your goals. That would be one example. Next slide, please. Less risk factors. Deborah, did you want to share? I know we had discussed something.
Go on your risk factors?
Yes.
Yeah, because I think when you're raising awareness, you're trying to decrease risk factors.
Mhm.
And so I think that's one of the things that when you're really detailing out your objective and your activities, that's where you're going to kind of detail, like that. In order to have less risk factors, in that example with the digital storytelling, they're increasing something. They're increasing knowledge. So
Well,
increasing and decreasing kind of go together.
and also when you're involving youth in positive activities, you're reducing the risk that they're going to get involved in risky activities like smoking after school, getting too close to other kids that might be into trouble, that kind of thing.
Okay. Next slide, please. When we talk about more youth practicing our culture, that makes me think of a grantee of mine who they have a very successful, solid youth advisory board, and they ask the youth what they would like to do. And the youth decided that they wanted to partner or collaborate with their tribe during their powwow that they have in the fall. So the youth volunteered to serve as MCs for part of the powwow, and they also wanted to They also wanted to sponsor a tiny tot special in honor of boarding school children. So they were responsible for running the special, judging, and providing the prizes. And they provided an orange ribbon skirt for the girl first place winner, and then an orange ribbon shirt for the boy. So that's just one example of the more youth practicing our culture, more aware of suicide crisis, just being vocal and sharing with others what exactly you're doing in your work regarding a suicide crisis. Next slide, please. More leaders aware. One of the things that I thought was interesting in engaging is when grantees tell me that when they have an event or a program, some sort of activity, they invite leadership, and they always make sure that they know they're invited. And not only that, they will sometimes ask them to participate by providing an opening or, participating in their activities so that they know exactly what the grantees program is offering and what they're doing during those programs and activities. And more Native connections. I'm not sure if Deborah or Sarah wanted to visit or wanted to share about that.
A bigger web of relationships that you've developed on behalf and in support of youth.
Yes. Thank you.
Sarah, would you like to share about fewer crisis calls?
Oh, yes. If these things come to pass, the outcome should be that you get fewer calls of youth trying to commit suicide or getting involved or being very depressed. Hopefully, if all goes well and you've involved the community and a number of youth that were at risk in these activities, fewer crisis calls will be coming your way. So those are just some of the outcomes of some examples of goals that we've provided for you today. And as I mentioned earlier, the strategic action plan template is yours for the asking. It looks like this. It's completely, it could be bespoken to your program. You can put your own logo on the front page. You can take the Native Connections part off if you want. You can use a different font, whatever you'd like to do. But we do include a SAP checklist, strategic action plan checklist on the left-hand side of the screen to just give you an idea of what are some of the things that the GPOs and the GTAs are looking for in your strategic action plan, whether you use the template or not. Things like, was the data collected to inform the SAP? Where did the data come from? The CRM, the CSA? Was a needs assessment completed? Do you have an advisory board that's assembled and meeting with you regularly to support and inform your SAP? What key elements have you decided or determined? Do you have a vision statement? Do you have your goals for year 1, years 2 through 5? And this is a living document, so this could take a while. You can have regular meetings with your GTA just to look at the progress that you've made. Are your objectives SMART? Do they support the goal? What activities are you describing to support objectives? Do you have clear, predicted, measurable results, which are outcomes that are determined that you think will happen if you are successful with your objectives and your goals? Are people assigned to the activities for managing objectives and goals? Who are these people? Are they connected to your department or another department or another area entirely? And what's the timeline or the due date for these activities, goals, and objectives? And also, do you realize that the strategic action plan is viewed as a working document? That you can include a list on the right-hand side of the people that are supporting your program, the name of your program, the team members, your advisory board members. Hopefully that list will grow. Here's an example of, we want to make sure in the template you include your vision and problem statements, your mission statement. Your problem statement, you could probably pull directly from your application, your winning proposal. And then here's just a snapshot of sort of in play. This is a draft of one grantee's attempt at developing year 2, goal 1 their objectives, their supporting activities, the lead who's responsible, the date it should be completed. If there's any budget consideration, that's always important to think about, because you don't want to create an activity that's going to blow your budget. You want to think about your budget when you're creating all of these activities. And then down at the bottom, measurable outcomes. You don't have to have a measurable outcome for every single objective, just the ones that you feel will create the best story. You want the strategic action plan is you telling your story about the program, and how you tell a story is broken up into all of these words like objective, activity, goals, and outcomes. And I think that brings us to the end of the Prezi, and I'm going to turn it back over to you, Deborah.
Yeah, again, this is part 3 of this Prezi, and we're going to continue this on next month on ISAP. But one of the things I think a really good point that Sarah shared is that this is a working document. You have your grant application, whether you wrote that application or you hired somebody, a professional grant writer, you have your goals and objectives in there. And a lot of times those goals are written very technical. And so I think if you take the time, in your first planning year, or take the time to really break down your goals and really see how they fit in with your community and with your youth. And again, this goes back to planning. Give yourself time to plan. Give yourself time to, put some thought into what you're doing. I think that's one of the most important thing I can say as a GTA.
Have fun with it.
So this is a flexible document, and you do update it yearly. And again, in that sample that we showed you, you can see, there were places on there that were marked off. And so that's something that I do with my grantees from year to year, is we'll review those, and we do this through email a lot. And so we're going to see things that are crossed off and add it, use those editing functions on your Outlook or whatever Word. But again, it's a work in progress. But I just can't say, when you have a SAP that you're really happy with, that your GPO approves, they give you the go ahead on it. It makes your life so much simpler than always scrambling on what to do next when you lay that plan out. And your GTA, we've all had to learn how to use SMART. You guys don't hear the discussions we have behind the scenes when we're dissecting these objectives, because we do that so that we can keep up on our skills on how to explain these SMART. All of us have had to learn to do this. And I think that's why we really wanted to put forth that color coding, because once we color coded it, that was like our aha moment. Oh, that's how you do that.
It
Then
helped
it
a
made
lot.
more sense. We went through that too as GTAs.
And Deb, I'm wondering, this is Sarah, I'm wondering if anyone who's on this call today, if you plan to meet with us next time when we go through the ISAP for part 4, bring any questions that you might have. And we'll spend some time, reviewing. We'll look at a template. We'll help walk you through any questions. Bring those with you next time. Thanks.
Yes. And Jackie, I seen your question in the chat box, and I'll have to talk to you about that on a separate call. That sounds more like indicators. Part of what you're going to report in your quarterly reports and such, but good question.
Does anyone else have any questions or comments?
I will say that outcomes do show a little bit of indication of change. It could show an indicator that you're moving towards your goal, or you might be moving away from your goal. So outcomes are sometimes considered indicators of change, increasing, decreasing. You might be increasing your number of youth that come to your events, or they might be decreasing for some reason, which is the indicator of change. And that gets into evaluation. We'll talk about that in our next event.
Now, the strategic action plan template that is in the Native Connections Resource Center, and the one that we showed you today is the 2019 version, because I think we do have a 2017, 2018, but the one I used today was the 2019. So that's in there. And We also have, there's the SMART fact sheet, which is a standalone document. So you don't need to, because we do have that included in the SAP template, but we do also have it as a standalone document. And that checklist, that's also a standalone document. And again, that's in the Native Connections Resource Center. And I always advise my grantees to print out that checklist and use that as you're preparing to develop your strategic action planner, because that's actually a 1 year, you can use that for your first year planning, because that really helps you hit all the milestones for the first year. And I think BC put in a link there to Smartsheet. So if you do not have access to Smartsheet, please get hold of your GTA and they will help you get into that. And if you get into the Native Connections Resource Center and you get really confused, don't know where to go or how to find something, again, your GTA can give you a tour. I've done that with my grantees, with numerous people. It's very easy to do. We do that on Zoom, share our desktops and just show you where everything is in there. Because actually it does make sense once you understand how it's set up. There is a reason why it's that way. So anyway, we really want to thank you for being here today. And I really hope that that color-coded SMART, and this whole webinar was helpful to you. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a good new year. There you go.
Thank you for joining us, folks. This is BC again. You can see the dates and times for our upcoming webinar. The part 4, Stay on the Path, January 17th. Behavioral health and cultural inclusion into the therapeutic process on January 31st. And then lethal means restriction and safety planning on February 23rd. So we hope you continue to have a good little break here, maybe in the next few days as the new year starts. And thank you for joining us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.